Welcome, everyone, to Conversations with Curio. My name is Jim Kantowski, co-founder of Curio Wealth, joined by my partner, Jake Sadler. And we are headed into the close of 2024. And we thought this would be a good opportunity to think about, as we head into the new year, what type of preparations that you should take in order to have we'll call it a successful 2025 in terms of investments and financial planning. So, Jake, a year end is just a year end. There's really nothing magic or special about it. It's just another day.
It's another day.
But people tend to use it as a guide or a place to have a fresh start.
Yeah.
As you know, we have a lot of New Year's resolutions that people kick off and don't follow. And so when you think about financial planning and investments, let's just talk about like what you should do or plan for in the new year when you're reviewing your financial situation.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a great point around, it is just another day. I was just thinking about that. I was thinking earlier about, kind of tax planning at the end of a year. And it's, to a certain extent, it's kind of arbitrary, right? I mean, it's just a change of a day, but it's also a change of a year. And there's a lot of implications that come with that. And I think a lot of things, I think in life, it's kind of cyclical. I mean, you think of, a campfire. When you throw some logs on there, they burn down, and it's time to throw some new logs on. So in the new year is a fresh start. It's a great, opportunity to reflect on, what you just experienced in the past year and what's on tap for the year ahead. And with the portfolio, I always like to say, I got some great advice years ago. Start your year off when you're thinking about your portfolio at the mirror. January 1st, go find a mirror in your house, right? In your bathroom, closet, wherever your mirror is. And you look yourself in the mirror and you say, the stocks that I own could drop by 50% this year. And then go about the rest of your year. You got to accept the fact that if in your portfolio you own stocks, right? You could experience volatility. And you can't say in advance when that's going to be. So, I think step one, as you prepare for the new year, prepare for volatility. It might be there. The rest kind of comes after that.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So let's think about that. You look in the mirror and you say, hey, the stocks in my portfolio can drop 50%. I think you got to look at your reaction to that in your reflection.
Yes.
And see what kind of face you make, because it may be a good time, the new year, to reevaluate like how much stocks are in your portfolio as a total, so that you can survive a decline of 50% without making a major change.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it's at the mirror for a reason. You're kind of having a conversation with yourself. Like, what's my comfort level with that, right? Objectively, this could happen. I mean, we don't have to look back too far. I mean, March 2008 to March 2009, U.S. market's down about 50%. Like, we don't have to go that far to find that example. And like in the conversation with yourself, say, oh my gosh, that would be awful. I don't know if I can handle that. So how much of my portfolio is in stocks? And then it means that question, am I prepared for that volatility? Right? And that's going to be dependent on your situation and what you're trying to achieve. And I think, like I said, everything kind of falls from that when you're reflecting on the portfolio in the year ahead, because that's kind of where that planning work comes in. And I don't want to start the new year just by talking about goals. I think it's goals relative to, okay, how's your portfolio structured? And is that aligned with your goals for the year ahead?
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So we're talking about like the amount of stocks in the portfolio and the amount of risk essentially that you're going to have to take for the year. How do you figure that out? What are the key factors in determining how much risk you should have in a portfolio?
Yeah, no, it's we go to the goals, right? And goals, for lack of any other word, I mean, it's where do you want to go, right? It's you're charting a course towards where you want to go, know what you want, and then know how to get there. Most people have multiple objectives or endpoints, right? They have long-term objectives, right? I like, if you're retired, I don't want to run out of money in retirement, kind of priority number one. I want to maintain my standard of living for the next 3 decades, that type of thing. But then you also have the next 12 months, right? So it's like, oh, I need to buy a car. My car is about to just stop, running in the middle of the highway, or we're planning a big trip this year. So as you factor in those different goals and the different time frames for those, that's going to impact your mix of investments, right? If you need that cash within the next year, it needs to be out of the market. You don't want market risk in those dollars, because to that earlier example, I mean, everything's in stocks and your portfolio is down 50%, and then you sell some of what you own to get the cash that you needed and knew you needed. Well, that's going to be damaging long term, and it's going to compromise your longer term goals.
So understanding what you're spending for the year is very important, and that would help you determine like how much cash you want to have set aside to be able to fund that spending need. And some people are have a little bit more risk tolerance with this. Some people less, but the typical is 6 to 12 months of your spending should be set aside in cash, so you're not digging into the portfolio when the markets are down. Is that
Yeah,
a good spot?
that that's a great spot to be, and everybody is different. I mean, that's where it is. It's a conversation, whether it's with yourself or with a trusted advisor, that you can have and say, okay, here are my cash needs for the year ahead. I want at least half of that in cash. Maybe I want all of that in cash, and then fit that piece of the puzzle into this bigger, longer term picture that you're, also working on.
All right. So how do we go about generating that cash?
Yeah, so that's right. We're kind of going in this order, this kind of this sequence, like as we start the new year. Understand, okay, how's the portfolio currently positioned? What am I trying to achieve with the portfolio? Like, what are my cash needs, that sort of thing. And then we look at, okay, well, we need to make some moves in the portfolio, and that would be rebalancing, right? And so that, say for folks, the example would be, if you're in retirement, you need cash for the year ahead. Rebalancing would be the process of, okay, you take your initial starting point, your target mix of stocks and bonds. And over the course of the past year, your target has changed, right? You've drifted from your target. So our process is, you sell what's up in proportion to your target or up in value, generate that cash that you need near term, and then buy what's down in value or down in proportion to your target. And that kind of, I think, at the highest level is that rebalancing process. The beginning of the year is a fantastic opportunity to do that.
So you're sitting there with your portfolio, like in 2024, we had a pretty good year and the stock market is up and your portfolio has 50% stocks, 50% bonds, the stock portion increased. So what you're describing in this rebalancing method is you might be selling some of the stocks, putting that in cash to give you this balance of 50-50 again, and also funding your cash needs for the year. And if that happened in reverse and the stock market was down, you might be selling some of your fixed income or safer stuff, funding your cash so that you allow those stocks to return over the next year.
Exactly. And I think that almost kind of comes full circle, back to that idea of, what is the level of risk or volatility that you can take. I mean, it's important to have that balance of different types of investments. So then that diversification, so that at the end of any given year, you have a card to play in most cases where you can sell something that's up in value and then get the cash that you need for the year ahead.
Okay. So we have this general overview of what rebalancing looks like. What are some other things that are really important to factor in when you're rebalancing a portfolio? I have a couple in mind, but you want to take a shot at that?
I mean, I'm going to go ahead and guess taxes is going to be top of mind for you.
Yeah.
And like, I think that rebalancing process, it's not unique. The beginning of the year is an only time that you want to be looking at that. And a lot of times the end of the year is a good, chance to kind of clean up the rebalancing really from a tax perspective, right? If I need to sell some investments that are up and maybe a taxable account, I'm going to trigger some capital gains. Maybe you want to look at that at the end of the year and say, okay, maybe I'll take some of those gains in December and then the rest of what I need in January. So, I mean, it can kind of bridge that, kind of December to January timeframe. But definitely the tax perspective, that's the first thing that comes to mind. It's, doing a projection and saying, okay, what kind of income can I take within my portfolio to accomplish the rebalancing that I'm working towards?
Yeah. And so there we want to look at recognizing gains if you're in a low tax bracket, recognizing loss, which can help offset other gains. You got to be very conscious of staying, if you're in retirement, you're receiving Medicare, you got to be careful of income levels so that your Medicare premiums do not go up. One of the other things that I was thinking about in terms of rebalancing the portfolio and generating cash was this applies more towards retirees, but it would be if you need to take a required minimum distribution
Yeah.
from your portfolio, it might be a time to go ahead and do that. Use that cash to fund your spending needs and also take care of that requirement that the IRS puts on us to take a certain amount of money out of our portfolio each year.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think you talk about retire, for folks in retirement, there's a real opportunity at the beginning of the year to kind of chart that course for distributions from your portfolio, right? Okay, I'm going to need this much cash, or I estimate I'm going to need this much cash for my portfolio. Where the heck am I going to get it from? I've got 4 different account types, with each with different tax implications. Where do I get the money that I need? And that's really important. I think for folks that aren't in retirement but are saving, there's also a terrific opportunity at the beginning of the year to kind of flip that coin over. And instead of thinking about taking money out, we're thinking about putting money in, right? We're saving. And it's a great opportunity to say, okay, this year, where am I going to be saving, right? Maybe I have a workplace plan. Maybe I'm not maxing it out. So can I, bump it up a couple percentage points? I'm not maxing out my Roth IRA. Maybe I'll bump that up a little bit. Look at the savings vehicles that you have kind of at your disposal and take a proactive step, right, towards making sure you're hitting your savings goals and bumping those up and staying on track.
Yeah, that's a great way to bring that back. We think about, you and I, we're working with retirees a lot, so we're thinking about where to pull money from. But when you're in the accumulation phase, you need to think about where you're gonna put money. And the new year is good. There is some relevance to it because typically you've received some sort of increase in salary, and so
Mhm.
or you might be receiving a bonus going forward. So it's a good time to say, hey, I just got this bump in salary. I'm gonna have an extra $500,000 a month. What should I be doing with this money?
Mhm.
Should I be putting it in what type of savings vehicles? Do I have any big purchases that I need to be made? How should I be thinking about this extra money? And then,
Yeah.
also if you get a bonus that comes in, a lot of times bonuses are paid out in February or March. What are you going to do with
Yeah.
that? Are you going to max out a retirement plan? Are you going to sock it away for a large purchase? Just thinking through that, the new year is a really good time to do that.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, and I don't know. I feel like I hear it enough where it kind of seems cliche, right? At the beginning of the year, it is a time for reflection, but naturally most folks have a little bit of time off and find a little bit of quiet time, whether with yourself or your partner or spouse or, trusted friend or advisor, and just have that kind of time for reflection to think about exactly what you just talked about. Yeah, I got a bonus coming in February, March. I didn't really thought what exactly should I do with that? Get a plan in place.
Yeah. So, what else would you think about doing when you're in the new year planning?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to come back to kind of something similar to the first thing yesterday, which is look in the mirror and then go on about your year. I think coupled with that is tuning out the noise, right? It's preparing yourself mentally to tune out the noise. And to be honest, the noise around markets is pretty loud in January. And you're probably
Mm.
familiar, with the idea of like the January indicator, the January barometer. The idea or the theory is that, okay, you say take the US market, and whatever the market does in January, it's just that's what's going to happen for the year. So let's just say the US market is down in January. That means it's going to be down for the full year. That's some noise that's out there. And a lot of people will take action based on that. The problem from our perspective, from an evidence-based perspective, is that when you actually look at all the evidence and say, okay, markets, what do they do in January and what do they do for the rest of the year? Well, 60% of the time, if the market goes down in January, it's positive for the year. So I think it's just a great example. There's a lot of noise in markets out there, and a lot of it pointing toward January as some sort of, harbinger of what's going to happen for the rest of the year. It's just not true. It's relatively random, and it charts the same course as what markets do on average throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I might take it a little bit different direction, but I will say that I think if you look back, I need to go back and see some articles to prove this out, but I'm pretty sure the noise was really loud all year through 2024 that this year was going to be bad. And
Yeah.
it's actually been a really good year. So turning out that noise is a really, really good point. And I guess what I was going to ask you is, what are some ways that you can help, what's the right word? Not mitigate, but keep yourself from listening to all that. And I don't mean like turning off the TV necessarily, but I was more thinking about, I'm answering my own question here, thinking about like all these planning that we do. Like if you
Yeah.
have your cash needs planned out, if you think about the income or the returns that you need from your portfolio, and you have a portfolio um, set up in the way that is right for you, that can help. Also, going back to this savings need, like if you are taking advantage of average cost, like and you're
Yeah.
younger, like the market's going down is probably a good thing for you, because you have this
Yeah.
opportunity to invest at a lower cost.
Yeah. I mean, I think, it's really the beginning of the year is that chance. I mean, to actually tune out the noise. Really, the best way is like you're pointing out, is that planning process. But it's really that process is one where you're kind of grounding yourself. You're centering yourself around your situation, right? The noise is everything outside of your control and outside of yourself, right? We can't control what markets do. So we have to look inward and say, okay, what is my situation? What am I trying to do? Ground yourself in that and make sure you're in the right position or the optimal position to get where you want to go.
Yeah, like we like to say, control what you can control. And that's,
Yeah.
part of that planning process in January. If you're looking at your overall situation, let's look at these factors that we can control, make sure they're dialed in, and make sure we're set up for the year ahead. Um,
Yeah.
Jake, anything else that you can think of that somebody should do? I mean, there's some things that are popping in my head, like reviewing insurance policies. Some people do that on an annual basis. That might be a good thing to check into. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I love what you said. I mean, control what you can control. It is this opportunity for kind of reflecting and centering yourself around what's most important for you. If that comes with a checklist, if that's helpful for you to do at the beginning of the year in that process, then yeah, go through your checklist. Check out your risk management, make sure your estate planning's in order, all of those types of things. But I think what's more important here at the beginning of the year, you could do that at any point, but yeah, I mean, I think just really thinking through, reflecting on what's important to you in the year ahead and being confident in the position that you're in, to navigate that.
Awesome. Jake, thank you so much for your time today. It's great catching up, and hopefully 2025 will be a great year for the markets, um, and we'll have some fun things to look forward to. So we'll talk to you guys soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.